Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how I paint an eye on wood in acrylic paint. So you will need a wood slice, some clear gesso, a pencil, I'm using a watercolor pencil, some acrylic paint, I'm using Liquitex and Holbein, a palette and a small water bottle to keep the palette wet, some brushes, and a kneaded eraser, the stencil, and also some sandpaper. I want to start out with a perfect circle, so I'm using the stencil. The perfect circle acts as a really good base for the eye. Alright, now I'm drawing out my anchor points. This makes sure that I get the tilt of the eye right. And I am using a reference photo for this painting. I can leave it in the description, but I got it from this royalty-free site called Pixabay. Now I'm just taking some burnt sienna and I'm going to use this as the outline before I erase everything. As an alternative, you can also do a thin coat of acrylic matte medium, and that seals the pencil mark so when you paint over them it doesn't smear it or anything. But I don't have any of that, so I'm just outlining it with some paint. Now I'm just using that kneaded eraser and just carefully kind of dabbing it on there just to get rid of the lines, the pencil lines. Now I'm taking some ultramarine blue and I'm gonna do a thin wash on the eye. This just helps establish the color, and I like working with just this base value. And I'm taking some of the burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, and I'm making a soft black out of that for the pupil. Now I'm taking some yellow, and I'm just gonna block in the iris. I usually like to do just these thin layers at first to establish the colors, and it kind of gives me an idea of where I want to go with the color scheme. Now I'm just adding shadows to the darker parts of the skin, and also adding some dimension to the iris with some burnt sienna and some of the yellow mixed together. I just wet the surface first and put some magenta because I want just like little splashes of pink. And then I'm adding another layer of the blue to deepen it. Also, I'm really sorry for the dirty table. It looks pretty bad, but I just thought I'd apologize. After filming this video, I realized that I should probably get a backdrop just because it would be more aesthetically pleasing. The iris took me the longest because there was just so much going on with it, and I kind of went a little overboard with it at first, but you'll see. I mean, I spend a pretty long time on it. But yeah, now I'm just kind of crisping up that edge and kind of deepening the corners. Now I'm just adding some white mixed in with the blue to add some scales. Just kind of some like little indication of scales. I don't cover the whole eye in it because I think that would just be too much. But just to kind of show that there's texture to it. And then I'm adding little light pink scales to the pink areas. I'm adding a little like light yellow highlight underneath the pupil. This really helps make it look like it's a hole instead of just a black circle. It helps give it dimension. And now I'm just adding lines of some light yellow, and also on the outer portion of the iris, I'm adding kind of like the darker orange, and I kind of go back and forth between the different colored lines to add dimension to it. And that's the cool thing about acrylic, is that it dries so fast. You can add layers so quickly to, yeah. And now I'm adding that shadow underneath the lid. I think this is where it really brings it out. It really gives it the dimension, like it's an actual ball set inside a lid. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. But yeah, I'm just working more on the iris. This just took me a really long time. Now I'm adding some like light pink lines in there. It's really strong at first. It was a little too much. But like I said before, since acrylic dries so fast, you can really just cover that right up. Now I'm just darkening up that edge a bit more with more of that burnt sienna with just a little bit of yellow combined. And I kind of make it lighter as it goes towards the pupil. And now I'm really deepening up that shadow underneath the upper lid. This is probably my favorite part. And now I'm adding a very thin glaze of the blue. And now I'm adding a highlight to the white part of the eye. I forgot what it's called. And I'm just tweaking the skin, just adding soft highlights and soft shadows where they need to be. And now I'm adding the highlights for the scales. Wherever the pink areas are, I'm making this scale as like a light pink, and then wherever the blue is, I'm making it a light blue. And now I'm using a thin layer of white mixed in with a little bit of ultramarine blue. It's not straight white, but it is kind of watered down. And I kind of blend it, and now I'm putting a heavier highlight in the middle of that. And for the highlights of the skin, I'm mixing a little bit of a greenish blue with white because I like the transition of the warmth to the cool. So like for this instance, I made the shadows a little bit more purple and the highlights are kind of cooler. And now I'm adding just little thin puddles of watered down white for these little fairy lights that I'm adding to it. And with acrylic, it's hard to do because it just doesn't blend as easily with like oils, for instance. So you have to really work in layers and make sure that your surface stays really nice and wet so it doesn't dry. Just so when it dries, it doesn't have any harsh lines. And then I just go lighter towards the middle of the little lights, just making sure everything is nice and blended. And now I'm adding that thick blob of white right in the middle. So yeah, I hope you guys learned something. Of course, if you have any questions, you can leave them down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.